The US is falling behind on the energy transition because what is least carbon is not necessarily least cost. And while we do see some adoption of, wind, solar electric vehicles, the pace at which that adoption is happening is not quick enough. My name is Narayanan. I'm a specialist looking at North American regional trends for BloombergNEF. And what that means is I spend a lot of time thinking about how the US is going to decarbonize out through 2050. BloombergNEF is the primary research arm of Bloomberg, and we focus entirely on decarbonization. The New Energy Outlook US report that just came out really highlights that the US is lagging on its decarbonization effort, especially going out until 2050. So for the last 15, 17 years, emissions have fallen every year by about 1.8%. But as we look out until mid-century, the pace of emissions cuts is slowing down to 1.6%. And so what that means is we're going to come up on 2050 with 60% of today's emissions still in the system. And that means we're missing our international commitments to the Paris Agreement, and we're also not on track to keep climate change under control. The second major takeaway is that the US is really attached to natural gas. It's very difficult to displace the use of natural gas in the US energy system, and that's something the country really needs to think about. The US is falling behind because when you look at how quickly things need to happen, it's really not happening quickly enough. It's a bit funny to say that the US is falling behind because, 2 years ago, the Inflation Reduction Act was passed. That's a very generous set of subsidies entirely intended to kickstart this decarbonization effort to keep a lot more clean energy technologies cost competitive and in play and to see more adoption. What's ended up happening, though, is that even with a lot of these subsidies, the newer technology that needs to scale up and ramp up very quickly in order to decarbonize the sectors that are seeing no transition whatsoever are still expensive. And as long as we wait for the lowest cost economics to play out, it's going to take time for those to break through. We've tried carrots from a sort of policy point of view, and it's really time for sticks. And it's time to say you need to see more of this adoption. The industry is doing its best to get as much supply online in order to meet what they think demand is going to be from data centers and load growth. This is also a little bit difficult to do when you're not exactly sure how much this data center load growth is actually going to be, when it's going to come online, and where it's going to be. Across the board, industry analysts, consultants, utility analysts themselves are trying to put a number on how much electricity they're going to need. And they're really working to try and ensure that if all of this materializes, they are ready. BloombergNEF, from its very beginning, has really been focused on looking at the energy transition and decarbonization. And we've expanded to look at multiple different sectors. The analyst team is present globally. We have boots on the ground in a number of different countries, looking at different aspects of the supply chain, from demand in individual countries, whether that's for energy and materials, to upstream production, manufacturing. And that breadth allows us to really put together a wide-ranging, consolidated narrative.